Hello, my peaceful and profitable entrepreneurs. Happy Wednesday. I'm excited to be here today. This is a really fun conversation for me. It's all about how my background as a nurse helped me to build a six-figure business and how you can use some of these things today. So if you hop on, please say hello, ask questions, leave comments. You will be entered to win my giveaway, which is a 90-minute masterclass of how to grow your business. So any kind of emoji will win. Hi, Alicia. It's nice to have you. Pop on and say hi. I was just saying you get entered to win my 90-minute masterclass about the 4 ways to grow your business. And then next week, we do a masterclass at the end of the month every month. So it will be how to use my framework to build more money in your business and why it's essential. So when you sign up, I'll leave the link below after this masterclass or this class today, but you'll get the link and you get the playbook ahead of time and you have the playbook to have going forward. So I love these weekly live streams, but I love the monthly masterclass so that I can really go deeper with y'all. And we are a very small business. For small operation, we can't support a ton of people. There are a lot of people out there I would love to support, but we just don't have the capacity. So this is just kind of like a free way to work with me. I know I get clients on here, team members on here. We have returning clients and previous clients. So anyone can join and use that and just have that playbook to use going forward. It's just beautiful weather here in Charleston. I don't know wherever y'all are if it feels like fall. It really feels like fall today and it's amazing. I went to Nashville last weekend to visit a friend and the leaves in her neighborhood were gorgeous. I felt like I was in like a movie. We're in Charleston and we have, some leaves changing here, but it's a lot of palm trees and magnolia trees and things that necessarily have like color changes. So it was really fun to be up there and I just felt like I was in Hocus Pocus. Like we watched that original movie a couple weeks ago and it's just felt like I was in a movie. But pop on and join the conversation. This is really important to me and I've challenged myself not to have a ton of notes. I always try to have a lot of notes and make sure I say everything I want to say, and this time I'm challenging myself to not lean so hard on my notes. But I think this is a beautiful conversation to have because a lot of the business owners I talk to have previous experience doing something else. I think this is just something we can all relate to. The quote that I found for today that I really like, sometimes I have quotes and I just read something and it just speaks to me. And I found this one today. Found it in a book. It's Virginia Woolf and it says, arrange whatever pieces come your way. And this is just I'll kind of weave that in, but my framework that we'll talk about next week is mindset, strategy, organize, implement. And so what we're talking about today is really kind of like the mindset piece. And then in a little bit, we'll get into actual strategic things. But the mindset piece of it is really I went to nursing school. That was 2 years of my life and $30,000, I think, in school loans. And then I worked as a nurse for 4 years. I paid off those loans. But then after that, I went back to accounting. My undergrad was in accounting. I worked as, in public accounting. I did the CPA route. I did the small business department route, which was bookkeeping. And then, kind of set that all aside for 6 years of my life and then went back to accounting. And I could really give myself a hard time about it. I used to kind of think why did I do that? That was a waste of time. What was I thinking? I paid money that I didn't need to pay and time. And, I really think it's so important for us to look back at our history and take what we can from it to, be a better business owner now. And I know, a lot of people I talk to, if you want to drop in the comments, I know a few more people have joined. If you want to drop in the comments and tell me what your background is and what you do now, I think that would be really interesting to hear. Other examples I can think of are I'm getting professional pictures taken this Friday and I use Vision Bomb. She's a local girl and I think her background, she was an engineer before she started her photography business. And then my website girl, Turia Web Design, she was a teacher before she started her business. Christy Zumwalt, our social media manager here, she was on here a few weeks ago. She had a different career before she started her, social media manager business. So I think it's just really beautiful to see that we all kind of are in this boat, and it's just a great way to arrange whatever pieces come your way and use that history and that background to really support us going forward. So that was kind of the mindset piece to me. We can really choose to see it as an asset instead of a waste of time. And I can look back and, I was in Okay, Alicia. Hi, artist and accountant. Amazing. That's such a good combination. Left and right brained. So, and that's something I always like. Our bookkeepers have an accounting background too, but oh, Sarah, dental office manager before coming to bookkeeping. Hi, Sarah. She's one of our amazing bookkeepers here. But yeah, having that, other whatever career, job is just kind of a fun way to kind of be more well-rounded, I guess, but it also teaches us a lot of things. So, when I, just from kind of like getting personal, when I worked in the NICU and then dermatology, like that really kind of like made me more compassionate. Like before that, I was very left-brained, kind of like in my own little bubble. And then before the NICU, I was on a med surg floor with a lot of gastric bypass patients. So it was so interesting for me to see like these people and the families that they came from, and just knowing like, wow, like, my family, like we ate healthy and we were active outside, and, we ate vegetables and we didn't have a lot of junk in our house. And it just opened my eyes so much to like just a different way of living that like I hadn't experienced, and, people's different experiences in life. And like I was young, I was 30, I was young. So it really just helped me have compassion. And then the NICU for sure, like seeing what families went through just to get pregnant and then to have a baby, a 24-weeker or something in the NICU, and just the ups and downs that went along with it. So, it was just very eye-opening and really, made me more compassionate just as a human being. Like I know having kids definitely like cracked my heart wide open. But that was just really eye-opening too, to just help me be more heart-centered and, connect with people on a different level than I was previously doing. So, I feel like that's kind of what I bring to my business and talking to clients, is it's not just like left brain. I don't care about how you feel. I don't care about what works for you. Here's the numbers. Let's look at that. Like it's very much like holistic as a whole person. Like look at your background and we can kind of see how that affects us. Like we have clients that come in and they're very anxious around money, or they're very averse to looking at financials or anything like that. And then after our work together, I'm just a safe place. I'm a safe person for them to open up to and talk about things. And it really like, cracks them open a little bit so they can see that it's safe and that we can create that safety. And I just don't think I would be able to support them in that capacity if I didn't have that background where, in the NICU, I was taking care of people's like precious little babies and, their most precious thing ever. And just having that experience just has helped so much. And then, I think of like the NICU, and I was a dermatology nurse too. They're just very detail oriented. So that's where I could see like the accounting side, like, lean into and serve me with those jobs. Because the doctor I worked for, the neonatologists were super detail oriented because every minor detail mattered. Like the medicine was super, specific dosing, and we weighed their diapers and we did all these measurements on the babies, and you had to look and see where the tube was, like their, ET tube or an arterial line, or, just all these numbers and, a certain amount of medication mixed with this. And so just very specific. And so that really served me from that detail oriented side and nursing. And then nursing has really served me on the accounting side and just being a better person. So that's kind of like the mindset piece I want to talk about, and I won't harp on it too long, but just thinking of like, how do we use our background and really like love our journey and be so appreciative of it and how it brought us here. So I don't know if y'all want to share anything else. Sarah, I know your story and a little bit of your background and how you ended up, bookkeeping, but if you want to explain more, feel free. And Alicia, I would love to hear. I think artist and accountant is such an interesting combination. I like to say I'm creative for an accountant, but that being an artist and an accountant is definitely true gifts. So you must be very well-rounded. So if y'all want to drop any more information, I think this is just such a fascinating conversation to have and see what people glean from their previous history. I think that's all I wanted to talk about on the mindset side, but just really giving ourselves grace for our journey, because like I said, I could really look at that, all that money I spent, all the time that I, used for that. I could be like, why did I even do that? But it's really served me, and I look at that as a huge gift. So we'll get into, there's 5 things that I want to talk about today that really helped me as a nurse in my business, and we are 6 figures. I love to say that openly because I'm very proud of that. I just recently realized it, and I was like, I need to talk about this more. This is like a thing, and so it's just something I like to use just to have this conversation so people know that I'm not like some fly-by-night, like, oh, I'm a nurse that turned into a bookkeeper. Like, my background is in accounting. I majored in accounting. I worked in public accounting, like I said, and then just had that quarter-life crisis where, it was 2008, it was the downturn. People were laying off people everywhere. Another company I worked for was like going under, and it was just like the thought of getting another accounting job like made me want to gouge out my eye. So that's how I ended up in nursing. Alicia says, still work full-time as an accountant, but my dream is to have a sustainable art business and leave my job. That is amazing. I love that. It's so interesting. I recently talked to, it was back in the spring, a girl who was an accountant in a firm in town, and she had like this beautiful side business for kind of like embroidery and doing clothes. And it was just so amazing to see like that creativity in the other business. So Alicia, I'm totally rooting for you. And, I think it's just so smart how you're looking at it as a sustainable art business. I know a lot of creative people, and that's what they struggle with is, thinking of it as a business. Like, I love my craft. I love photography. I love painting. I love this, but like, they don't think of it as like, and it's a business. Like, I can love the craft of this and I'm a business owner. Let's treat it as a business. So kudos for you, because I know it's kind of really hard. Sarah, let me see if I can pull up your comment. Here it is. Working for 8 doctors really involved being detail oriented because they all have their own preferences. Yes. This helped me understand how to accommodate different personalities to reach the end goal. I love that, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that, because that is very, like in the NICU, I don't remember how many neonatologists we had, but it's very different. And in dermatology, when I've floated to other doctors, like everybody wants things a different way. And so, yeah, you're really having to like understand them as a person, understand how you can support them better and, give them what they need. So thank y'all for sharing that, because I just think that's so helpful to see. And I always love hearing it. I'm just curious. So, the first thing I learned from nursing that has served me in building my business is build relationships. As a nurse, that is number one, especially in the NICU when these parents, were at the bedside, and I was a night shift nurse for most of my time as a nurse, but they would be at the bedside and then they'd need to go get sleep. And so to see me, this young 30-year-old, and they're like, I don't want to leave my baby with you, because I'm smiling and I'm like bubbly. And then I did have moments where there's a lot of rules in the NICU to keep the baby safe. So there's touch times, and, we're really trying to control the environment of the isolette that they were in. There's just a lot of things, and sometimes, and germs, like we were huge on washing hands and not touching your phone or a pen and then touching the baby. So there's all these boundaries that you have to set with the parents, and that was something I was good at doing, and I was very comfortable doing it. And I think me being like smiley and young, they didn't really trust me at first, but then when they'd see me set those boundaries with them, it made them like me more. And so that's just part of that building relationships. Like, they knew that they could trust me. Like, if I'm going to tell their own parent to wash their hands before they touch their child because they touched something that was dirty, then like they know, like, I've got their back. Like, I'm here for their baby. Like, it's my number one priority. And so just building relationships with the doctors and knowing, how they wanted things handled. There were some doctors that like, they would be so specific. So I knew I had to have like the baby's chart right in front of me so I could answer any questions about any previous labs or numbers or anything. Like, I had it all right there, And so it was really about knowing like the relationship with the doctor, with the patient's family, because it's all really related. Back on the med-surg floor with the gastric bypass patients, we'd have their family members coming in. A lot of these people, they were overweight and their families were overweight. And so it was really hard for the family to get on board with what the patient had done, having the gastric bypass, wanting to change their lifestyle, wanting to make healthier choices, and then the family member is still not making healthy choices. So you see these like real family dynamics that I had to like be able to navigate and be able to kind of like just jump in and, handle what was going on here, or if there was like a conflict. Some of the doctors, like the neonatologist, and some of the doctors just would rub patients and their families the wrong way. Like they're very smart, but they weren't like necessarily that social, or didn't have like great relationship skills. So it would kind of be on us, the nurses, to kind of like, not smooth it over, but just really like, okay, like I know you don't want to do this, or you don't like what he says, but like, let me, kind of work with you to understand what's coming up and why you don't like it. And then here's our point of view and the science and kind of what we see behind it. So building those relationships of navigating, problems or conflict, and really being able to like know that they could trust me. And my aunt was one of the neonatologists, and she was phenomenal. Like she communicated with people so well, but she was very strict. Like if she saw you eating at the bedside, like you were in trouble. Like she was my aunt, and I was like scared of her when I was at work. I was like, don't let her catch me eat my snack, because I gotta eat my snacks every 2 or 3 hours. But knowing like how to respond to people, how to read people, and just navigate all those things. So that's something in business that I definitely use now, building relationships. So building relationships is like my number one job in my business, I think, with team members, with business owners that may or may not ever be my client. Like that's what I'm here to do, and refer people or support them in other ways. Like that's why I do these masterclasses every month. That's why I do these weekly live streams, is really just to like understand business owners, know what they're going through, and use whatever resources I can, or whatever background, in my brain that I can, help them. Because some people will get on the call and it's literally just like they have a few questions, or can you answer a sales tax question for me? And like, I love being a person that is like easy to talk to. I try to explain things from like, not just like a accounting textbook side, but really like, the work I do with my clients is very like visual. Like we have reports that have nice visuals. I try to keep spreadsheets that make it really easy for them to see like, what are our targets? Did we hit it? How's the growth? And really just like making it accessible for them. I feel like I could, go crazy with the reports and the spreadsheets, but I really try to read each client and each person that I'm working with, and try to really make sure that like, this is what they need. So some people I know that like, after a few minutes, like their eyes are just going to glaze over and they're just like done with looking at spreadsheets. And some people are like, tell me more about this, and we'll like dig into it even more. So it's really like, in my business, it's helped me, building relationships has just helped me support all of my clients and team. And it's just the foundation of what I do. There's millions of accountants, there's millions of advisors, coaches, like tons of people doing what I do, but I know specifically I'm special. I'm the one to support the people that want to work with me, because I bring that relationship building side to it. It's not just like, you're a client, here's the numbers, left brain, I'm out. Like if somebody wants to cry on our call, like I'm for it, let it out, whatever you need to do. I have a family and kids too, so I know like stuff comes up. I think my dog wanted to get in, had it locked out. But so that's number one. And if y'all want to chime in with, how this relates to you, or if you've seen this in your work, I just think when we think of building relationships in our business is like our number one, because, when you're selling or when you're promoting your stuff or anything like that, like you have to have that relationship first. That's why most of my clients don't use Facebook ads, because it's really all about the relationship that they have, with their clients and returning clients. Like the masterclass that I like to give away, like that's one of the things to increase your revenue is, getting new clients and having returning clients. So when you have those relationships, that just naturally happens. It's not something that like an algorithm changing is going to take away from you. Like if you're putting out content online and people like it and they want to find it, like they're going to look for you, like regardless of what the algorithm has done or how social media has changed, or if reels are hot and you're not doing reels. But like if they're like, I know I can go to Alicia's post, I'm going to get something out of it and it's going to be great, like I'm going to that. And so that's just using that relationship building. Like when we're thinking of promoting ourselves and showing up on social media, like really thinking about how it's all these like micro touch points with potential customers or our current customers, and just building and continuing that conversation. So I'm not going to like go all day on that one, but that one is a big one for me. Feel free to drop any comments ask any questions. I'm an open book. Like I said, I was trying to go with less notes today, so this is what I'm really just like riffing here. I've got like the numbers out, but other than that, it's just me, so we'll see how I do. The second one that really served me as a nurse that helps me with my business today is let caring take a front seat and anticipate their needs. As a nurse, like at the beginning of the shift, I would, like on the med-surg floor, I would try to like, okay, get my schedule down and try to make all my rounds and try to get like in front of everybody as fast as I could. And another nurse who'd been there for way longer than me, she would literally take like 10 or 15 minutes, get a big cart. She'd load it up with towels, she'd load it up with ice, she'd load it up with water, all these things. And I'd be like, what does she do? She's like wasting time doing all that stuff. Sorry. Oh, my husband's home, so she's good. But people were, I couldn't understand, like, why are you getting all that stuff? Like, I just want to make my rounds and get started on my assessments and whatever. But like, I'd get to everyone's room and it'd be like, oh, can I have some extra towels? Oh, can I have some extra ice? Can I have this? And I'd be like, okay. She knew what she was doing. She was anticipating their needs. And as a nurse, that was just so important. And not even anticipating their needs of like, do they need more towels or ice? But like looking at like our little babies, like they couldn't tell you anything of what they needed, but we'd know like, okay, if they haven't pooped in a while, I need to turn them on their right side after this feeding to help them, digest everything properly. So it was just even things like that of like, they've been in here for a while. Let's make sure we get like the like physical therapist over here. I think she was a physical therapist, but she would like work with the baby. She'd put them in a little bubble bath and like move them around. And so even though they couldn't tell us what they needed, it was our job to really anticipate what they needed for them and like make sure we got the resources for that. If we knew that they feed every 3 hours and we're doing tube feedings half the time and, mom's feeding half the time, we would make sure that we talk to the mom about like, how do we want to schedule this? Like, are you coming at this time and I'll do a tube feeding at this time? Because that's the worst thing in the world. If you do a tube feeding and then the mom shows up at the bedside to feed the baby, you just feel terrible. So, that was like anticipating their needs to make sure that like mama and baby both got what they needed. And that's just how, I think of that in business. It builds on that first one of building relationships and letting caring take the front seat and anticipating their needs. So I know if one of my clients is really like, has really high insurance. And so we're looking at that, and the high insurance is because they sell, wine and beer. And so, okay, well, let's pull some reports to see like, what are our sales with the wine and beer? Like, let's calculate this and see like, okay, if we're paying this much a year in insurance because we sell wine and beer, like, well, let's look at like, what are those sales? What does it look like? And I mean, this is just what I do like on a daily basis when I'm meeting with my clients. It's, I can kind of prepare ahead of time with our metrics that we talk about with targets, seeing where we're on, see where we're off, look at our budget numbers, but then also just being really present during the meeting for them and seeing like, hey, look, hold on, let's just dig into this expense for a minute. Okay, that's a vendor that you're not paying anymore. Are you meant to cancel that subscription? Or, hey, how does it feel with your workload? Do we need to talk about maybe getting a VA in? Like, I can send you some resources. We can kind of talk about what that would cost, and any other team members. So that's just really part of that, like building relationships, but you're really letting caring take the front seat. I will prep for our meetings and I think I'm going to show up and talk about certain things, and then they show up and they want to talk about something completely different and it goes in a totally different direction. And for me, I could kind of dig in my heels and be like, well, we need to get through your reports for last quarter. We haven't done that yet. But I really try to, not go down a rabbit hole if that's, we don't want to do that. But also just know like, okay, this is a really top priority for them. This is like gnawing at them. It's affecting their business. It's affecting their profitability. Like, let's focus on that because this is what we need. And then, I'll put the reports on the back burner. We'll kind of talk about it next time or via Voxer. So my one-on-one clients have me access and Voxer so they can go back and forth for whatever they need. It's kind of like talk and text, but it's where we like really communicate between meetings. And so, really like I let whatever they need take a front seat, and, whatever I thought I was going to show up and present to them and blow them away with these reports, but they really need to like dig into like, hey, is this wholesale really making me money? Can we look at the cost of that? And, then it's like, ooh, I have to like change gears, make my brain think a little bit differently. But it's really just like, okay, this is what's important and we need to focus on this. So that's number 2, like caring, take a front seat and anticipate their needs. And this is something like I think every business owner can do is really, most of us, if you're here, you're heart-centered and you really care about your clients and your customers. And so like letting that shine through and don't like hold back. Cause I think some of us, like we think we need to be a certain way to be professional or business-like. And if we just show up as our authentic, caring self and anticipate their needs. Like I know, I talked to an artist recently and I think she was on here a few weeks ago. We were talking about art and selling, and part of the reason she wasn't selling, it was like, okay, she can post her art, but like I can scroll through it and not like think about buying it. But she needs to really promote like, hey, if you put this art on your wall, think about like how it's going to improve your day and how it's going to improve your mood. And, that to me, selling is kind of anticipating their needs, because we are showing them like there is a better way. There is an answer to your problem. Like, even if you're kind of like stuffing it under the rug or in a corner and like ignoring the problem, like if we can bring this to light, that this is what I do, I can help you with that. So I think selling is a piece of that, anticipating their needs and putting caring first, because if you solve the problem that they have, like you're a very caring, heart-centered person, and letting them know that there's nothing wrong with that. So that's number 2. And so that leads into number 3, be yourself. So I think that is so important, and a lesson I definitely learned, with nursing, just being myself, because I could, I shadowed a bunch of nurses and had different nurses train me, and they all had their own way of doing things. And like, that was great to see and super helpful. And it was also just nice to know that like I did things a certain way, like, definitely from the organization standpoint, like in the NICU, of like how I would organize my time and who's going to get baths when, and when we were going to change the bed linens and all that stuff. Like it was part of that, like I could decide, but also just knowing like, how to show up as myself. And like, yes, it is a kind of stressful environment for people, somber at times, but like I didn't have to walk around being stressed out and somber. Like I could be that like kind of ray of sunshine for them. Hopefully I was a ray of sunshine. I don't know on night shift if I was always a ray of sunshine, but try to just be that positive, upbeat person that is really there for them. And so that was what I would see with some nurses. They kind of had done it for a really long time. And so they kind of just got in this like rote mentality of like, just getting on autopilot almost. Not all of them, of course. Some of them were just amazing. And but sometimes when you've done something for a long time, you just kind of forget that like to like make each one personal. So now I'd love to hear y'all's experience. I don't know if y'all have anything, but I think this is a great place if you want to share like about being yourself, because I know this is applicable to so many business owners and just how we can be ourselves. And I know like how that carries over in my business and what I do now. Like I get complimented all the time of people being like, thank you for being creative with that, or thank you for explaining that to me, or sitting down with me and like telling me this, because a lot of people don't. And yes, I'm a CPA, but I don't file taxes. Like when I went back, after nursing school and started my business, I reactivated my CPA just so people would know I was legit. Like I wasn't just like, oh, my background is all nursing and now I've switched to bookkeeping, because you would not want someone just like, they're not a real bookkeeper if they don't have a background in accounting. I did a post about this recently, but just making sure if you do have a bookkeeper that their background is in accounting. And so that was important for me to reactivate the CPA thing, but I don't file taxes. There's a lot of things CPAs do that I just are not applicable to my business, but people see like the letters, and they think that, oh, I'm automatically going to be like stiff or confusing or dry, because some CPAs that you talk to, or anyone in general, it could be any industry, not necessarily CPAs, but I think they do have a tendency to be very left brain, focused on the number, and they don't let their true self shine through, because they're just so focused on the numbers and the product or the tax return. And so I really like to be myself, and I like to show up on these live streams as myself, and this is how I show up in my meetings with clients. Like I'm very consistent across the board because that's just important to me. Like I always say, I can't fight who I am. And I don't think anyone should. So, you know, if y'all, Sarah, you want to chime in, or Alicia, I think it's just fun to think about being yourself and how that carries over. And that's just definitely something I learned from nursing. I was very silly. I liked to play around a little bit in the middle of the night when, you know, it's dark and, you know, we've got the lights off in the NICU, and it was just fun to like have a little bit of personality and not just be so serious, like, you know, sitting in the corner looking at my phone when I wasn't doing nursing stuff or something. I like to always kind of like communicate with people and talk to people, and so I think it's just so important, and it has served me in bookkeeping in these advisory services because people can watch these videos, they can see my, you know, Instagram stories, they see all of this, and like it's really me across the board. So when they hire me and we go one-to-one, either an intensive or a long-term, like they know me from all of this interaction. So that's just important for me. So 3 is be yourself. 4 is be flexible. Very huge, you know, in the nursing world, being flexible on the med surge, and especially in the NICU. Like you'd have your plan for the night. I'd kind of write out like medications and, you know, feedings and baths and whatever. And sometimes that would just hit the fan. Like, you know, you would just like some babies, results came back, you know, some blood tests came back wrong, or they're starting to like turn a funny color, or their O2 saturation, like something. You could have like the, you know, plan the prettiest picnic, but you can't predict the weather type of thing. And so it was just so helpful to focus on what was important and make it happen. Alicia says, absolutely. People are attracted to genuine acts of kindness and just your interaction when selling. Exactly. So this is, you know, there's a lag on these, but thank you, Alicia, for saying that, because I love the way you put it. People are attracted to genuine acts of kindness, because that is just so true. And I know a lot of people don't like selling, or, you know, feel icky around it. And that's the main thing, is genuinely like helping someone move to what they want. Like maybe it's not you, maybe it's not what you sell or what you offer, but like genuinely being there as a person to help them solve the problem. And if it's you, great. If not, you know, no problem, you know, but I just think the way you said that is really beautifully said. We'll go back to being flexible. You know, I talked about it in the NICU and in dermatology. Like, it's just, you know, like you think you were going to get like a kid come in for acne, and then it was like, oh, they're here, and then like 3 of their siblings are here. Can we just see them all at the same time? And you're just like, ah. So yeah, definitely like that happened, you know, just in nursing and healthcare all the time. And I know this is probably every industry, but you know, with the work that I do now, it's just so important to be flexible. And I touched on this earlier. It's like I could show up to a meeting thinking we're going to look at reports, or we're going to talk about one specific thing, and then it goes in a completely different direction just based on what they need. Also, just with my days, like most of us, you know, most of our clients, we do the bookkeeping. And so, you know, I'm working with the bookkeeper to know like what's done, what hasn't been done, like can I prepare the reports for the meeting? And then like, just yesterday we got an email from a client, like she gives us her cost of goods sold number, and then we just had to change it and go back a couple months. And so I'm going and like changing those reports and our spreadsheets for those, and it's like it's totally fine, but like, you know, because like it's flexible, like that happens, like it just got missed with their, you know, sorting or whatever they do on their end for it. And so just being flexible and knowing that like, yeah, I might have to go back and like redo some stuff. You know, like it's not a big deal. And so I just really try to think of that and be flexible. Like, you know, just with the work that I do, obviously, like I love a schedule. I love, you know, like we do post on certain days, and I do, you know, my reels on certain days, and I do live streams on certain days, and we do the Masterclass on certain days. But in between all of that, it's nice to like have some flexibility. Like if a client needs to reschedule, like send them different times, you know, here's the link, pick another time, like it's fine, I'll take my dog for a walk during that time. So it's just nice to like I love having a framework and like a strategy, and we do certain things at certain times, and being able to be flexible with that and with the work that we do with our clients. So I don't know if either of y'all want to give examples. I feel like this one might be a little harder to give examples. Like I just know it for my business, what I can do. And so I think just we can see it with other industries as well, but when we're really letting caring take a front seat and anticipating people's needs, like, you know, kindness, all that stuff, like we are dealing with other humans, like we are human, they are human. And so there's always going to be this element of like flexibility and unknowingness and surprise. And so I think if we just don't fight it and just go with it, obviously, again, I'm not going to like go down a rabbit hole for something that's just like, this doesn't need to be a thing. Like this is more of a mindset thing. Like now you're just kind of questioning your strategy and wanting to rework everything. Like that is different and something that I like to kind of lovingly call out my clients on. But if it is this other, like this came up, my time is really valuable and now this is going on, I think it's just important to be flexible and give them what they need. So that was number 4. Last one is market all the time. So this is something with nursing that I think of as show up, especially when you don't feel like it, because there were many times on night shift, I just was like dragging, was not feeling it. It was dark, it was cold. And you know, I just didn't really feel like necessarily going into work at night. Sarah says, we've definitely needed to be flexible when patients came for an appointment on the wrong day or when an emergency happens. People love feeling like they are important to us. Yes. And when they know that you are going to be flexible for them, like they feel that, and it just makes, I think, a huge impression. I know on the patient side, if I showed up for an appointment on the wrong day and they still like worked it out, like I would be blown away. So yeah, I think that's a great example. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. I like having other people's sides of business to draw on. But yeah, going from the like showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. I mean, night shift was just hard for me. I'm not a night shift person. And so I really would have to like talk myself into getting excited and like reminding myself why I'm there. And, you know, just like knowing I couldn't like phone it in, even when I was like, I would rather just stay at home, or if I was working on, you know, a weekend or a holiday, like it was really hard. And so I think of that as like in business, we're basically marketing ourselves all the time. Like we need to show up. And if you're like, you know, I show up every day in social media and in my Facebook group. And if that's not the right cadence for you, that's fine. But determining like what your cadence is and what showing up looks like to you and stick to it. So maybe that just means like sending a weekly email or reaching out to like 1 to 3 personal connections every week, like whatever it is, like marketing all the time and being consistent with that just makes a huge difference in building a business, because there's really no secret. There's no, you know, like no one has like a secret Excel spreadsheet to build a like profitable business. Like it's really just like showing up, and consistency is the key. And so marketing and showing up all the time is what will build momentum and really create that pop moment. Like, you know, it took me like 7 years to build a 6-figure business. Well, like 6, like 5. Like we haven't even officially been in business, like taking clients for 7 years. So not quite there yet, but I do have like a 7-year anniversary where I started my business when I was on maternity leave, but then it's January is when I officially like took clients. So I have 2 anniversaries, but what I'm saying is that it's like, it's overnight and it's not. Like it's still this momentum building, showing up all the time, even when you feel like, what's the point? Or I just don't feel like it today. And definitely we want business to feel good and we want to show up and be in a good energy when we do it. But like setting up the framework so that it works for us. And like, even if I didn't really feel like doing it, I would still, you know, get myself in a better place. Like maybe go for a walk or, you know, lay on the couch for a few minutes, take a nap, whatever I needed to do to get into like that better place so that I could show up and still be consistent. Because this is something I feel like this time of year, a lot of people just kind of like go on autopilot, or they throw in the towel, or they're like, no one's buying this time of year, like whatever story they're telling themselves. But really like we lose so much momentum when we stop. So if they're like, I'm just going to take off the holidays and start back in January, like that 3 months or 2 months of momentum just gets lost, and then you're starting all over. So marketing all the time, showing up, creating whatever framework or whatever schedule that looks like to you, and like really sticking to it really makes a huge difference. And with my clients that I work with, like I see it all the time. Like we have a client who's done 2 launches now for something, and you're really just like can see the momentum building each time, which is really fun. But when she's in it, it feels like, oh, so slow, or only this many people signed up, and then it just like, it fills up at the last minute and it's done. And then, next year we'll go through the same thing, but she's building momentum that whole year to launch that program, and building the relationships and anticipating people's needs, and, being herself, like all these things that we talked about all year, so that when she opens that program and launches it, like people are in, like they're ready, like, yes, whatever you're buying, I'm in. So that's kind of, I don't know if I need to say any more about that, but marketing all the time and showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. And if you don't feel like it, get in a better place so that you can, show up with really good energy. So those are the 5. I'll go through them. 1 is build relationships. 2 is let caring take a front seat, anticipate their needs. 3, be yourself. 4, be flexible. And 5 is market all the time, even when you don't feel like it, but do it in a way that feels good, so that it does feel good to show up. So any questions or comments, let me know. But I do free calls, and then we have intensives, so people can work with me one-to-one on kind of like a short-term limited engagement. And then we have a few spots left for our VIP one-to-one high-level work. So those are the people that really want support through the month, and then they have access to me via Vox, or like in between meetings, basically all the time. But obviously I'm not responding in the middle of the night or anything, but it's just an easy way to stay in touch and engage, and really working with people to help them show up as their authentic self, and help them to create a business that feels good and that is them, and help them keep that momentum. I always say, like, my clients are very motivated people, but it does feel good to have someone like working with you on this, and being another set of eyes and another brain to just bounce ideas off of and see what comes up, because it feels more fun. And I see things that a lot of times they don't see, or I can pull experience from another business that they don't have. And so it's just a really fun relationship. So we have a few spots open for that for the rest of the year. Otherwise, I will see you next week. We'll have the masterclass. I'll drop the link below, and I'll see you later. Thanks so much for joining.